The word selfish gets used the most often when moms stop being convenient. That is one of those things that so many of us have told ourselves that we shouldn't be allowed to ever be. We can never be a selfish person because that would make us a bad person and a bad mom. But in this conversation, we're going to talk about what it looks like to be positively selfish, the cost of self abandonment, and commit to a new definition of what it means to be selfish. So, listen, I am a nerd and I love to read. I love words. One of my favorite courses in college was one where we had to study the history of words. And so I was really curious about the word selfish and when that started being used in the first place. So there's some man who I can't remember his name because I don't have that pulled up on any of my screens, but in 1628, he wrote a book that had the word selfish in the context of the selfish gene. And that's the first time that selfish was used in print and as a way to describe this excess focus on the self. But if you take the word apart, self is your personhood. It's all of the things that you think, feel, believe that make you you. And ish is just a suffix that you slap on the end of the word that means the state of being. So if ish is the state of being, my whole person, who got to decide that by being your whole self, that's somehow a bad thing? By focusing on making sure you have what you need, that's somehow a bad thing. I think it's bogus. I don't care what anybody else has to say about it. I did have somebody try to tell me what the dictionary says, and I explained to her that I know exactly what the dictionary says, and I appreciate that she wanted to share that with me, but I've gone down my own rabbit hole, and I stand on every word I said. So what does it mean when I say positively selfish? And you see me doing this, waving my hands around right now, because I just finished doing my nails and they're still a little tacky. And I have screwed up these thumbs at least twice, touching them. It's a whole thing, but I digress. When you are positively selfish, that means you take care of your needs before you worry about what everybody else needs so that you can give everybody else the very best version of you. When I come home, I love my son and I'm going to check in with my son and I'm going to ask him how he's doing. But there are absolutely days when I come home and I know that I need a minute and I will say to him, give me a second, let me get settled and I'll come back and talk to you. Now, mind you, I talk to moms who have older children. If you have little children, that may not work for you. But I take the time that I need so that when I do sit down to talk to him, I'm actually paying attention. I'm actually in the space to hear him, and I am actually going to engage by asking him questions that show him I care about whatever it is that he's saying. Another thing that I do is make sure that if I feel worried about something, if I am concerned about anything with my business, I sit down every week and I have a business meeting with God. This is how I keep giving to other people and replenish myself. I have to have this time. This is a time when my boyfriend knows I am not going to engage with him. I'm not going to answer phone calls because my meeting with God is sacred time. I close my door and I do what I need to do. When I am at work, I have my moments when I just need 5 minutes to switch from task to task so that I can get my mind around the thing that I'm asked to do next because I wear so many hats. I take care of me first so that I am not a jerk to everybody else, and so that I can give them my full, undivided attention. I wrote in my book, The Real Pain of Stress, if you are not taking care of yourself, you are not taking care of anybody else. And I don't care how much you try to convince yourself that you are being there for everybody else, you're being there at the cost of you. So then you're sowing little resentment seeds as you're being there for them. Because then when the situation has calmed down, it becomes, well, how come I'm always here for everybody else and nobody's here for me? So we have to put ourselves first, because if we don't, who's going to? So let's talk about the cost of self-abandonment, what that means and what that looks like. When you lose touch with who you are and what it is you really want, and your whole life revolves around your kids, when they're little, it leaves you feeling drained and depleted. As they get older, it makes you judge your kids as ungrateful. It builds resentment. It creates anger. It creates a feeling of grief, but you can't figure out why you feel so sad. And so you are calling it depression because you're diagnosing yourself instead of going to see someone. And it may not be depression. It may just be that you've lost your identity. And now, in this looking for who you are and what it is you want, you don't know where to start. I just had a conversation probably a week and a half, with a friend of mine who we were talking about what she wants in life. And when I asked her, what do you want? She starts telling me about all the things her kids want, all the things that she wants for her kids. And I had to stop her, like, sis, I hear you, but that's not you. You can't control where your kids are and what they do. And she thought about it for a second. She goes, you know what? You're absolutely right. And I'm going to have to give that some thought. She doesn't even know what she wants for herself. Now, in my next video, I'm actually going to show you how to figure that out if you've lost your sense of want and what it is you desire for yourself. We're going to get into that. But when you give up on you, you start looking to everybody else to give you meaning, to fulfill you and make you happy. And when they don't do that, then you feel miserable. But that's a lot of weight to put on somebody else. That's a lot of pressure to put on somebody else. That is a seed of disconnection that is going to grow. Did you drink your water today? Taking care of yourself? Go get you a glass. We are going to set a new definition of what it means to be selfish, and we are going to commit to being positively selfish every single day. To be positively selfish does not mean you neglect what your children need at all. It doesn't mean that you ignore what your partner needs at all. It's like when you're on a plane and they tell you to put the mask on your face before you try to help somebody else. That's all you're doing. You are making sure that you have the capacity to give before you start giving to everybody else. That's why they say you can't pour from an empty cup. It sounds really cliche, but it's the absolute truth. Can you give when you feel depleted? Yeah, but it's not going to go well for somebody. So either the other person is not getting the full version of you, or you are the one getting the short end of the stick. And then that creates friction between you and your kids. That's why repeating yourself gets on your nerves so much. Well, one of the many reasons. That's why it is so hard to connect with your kids when you feel resentment towards them. That's why people are running around with the joking expression "F these kids," because you want to be yourself and still be their mom and still do everything that they need you to do as a whole complete person, because you are one. And at some point, we bought into this lie that you have to be their everything. You have to give up everything for motherhood. And I just don't buy that for a second. And when I was doing that, I was angry. I was sad. I was eating my feelings. I was taking out my frustration on my son. And that damaged our relationship to a point that I don't wish on anybody. And it's what I write about in my book, because when he was about 12, he tried to unalive himself. And part of the reason for that was because with everything that was going on with him at school and feeling lost and hopeless and bullied because of his small size compared to other kids, he didn't know what else to do. And then because I was frustrated with my own life, all he heard me do all day long was fuss. I fussed at him about every little thing, and he didn't feel like he could come to me when he needed me. Now, gratefully, he came to me after he had attempted it and told me that so that I could get him some help. But that tells me that those feelings were lingering. And he didn't want to take that route. So he came to me out of desperation. And for a while, I stopped fussing. But what happened was that I swung to the other extreme, trying to preserve his mental health and help him be okay. And so then I was very unpredictable because I would let everything slide until everything became too many things. And then I would blow up. And that pattern went on for years. And then when I realized the damage that I was truly doing to our relationship, when I truly hit my rock bottom of swinging back and forth between chill and irate, it was after my son stormed out of the house with no shoes on in the cold because of what had happened. And I knew that I had to fix it. I had to fix it quickly. I had already been on a journey of rediscovering who I was. And my confidence had come back. I was very reflective. I was starting to pay more attention to the impact that I had on people. And that was when I was ready to do what I needed to do with my son. So I focused on the way I communicate. And that sent me down a rabbit hole of looking at other things that I needed to pay attention to, because communication alone wasn't enough. Having the right words or the right frameworks to help me have a conversation didn't change the way that I judged his behavior. It didn't point out the things that I couldn't see. And that's the work that I do with my moms in the relationship reset. And that's the reason why we need to be positively selfish, because when you pay attention to who you are, what you need, how you think, what you believe, why you believe it, it changes how you interact with your kids and the world. And they deserve the best versions of us. We deserve the best versions of us. Living my best life has to do with how I feel in here and my ability to have relationships that are healthy instead of ones where I am fighting for attention, bargaining for my right to just be, and trying to justify everything that I feel. You deserve that. The Positively Selfish Guide. It's 29 pages, but it's really, really like quick to go through because the print is huge. It's like this big on some of the pages. But in the front of it, there's a quiz called Are You Giving Too Much? You go through the quiz, see how you score, and then there's a scoring guide that tells you where you are with things. And then there's information on being positively selfish, and I do some myth busting. So again, if you want this, I'm going to drop the link for you to be able to get that in the description. But I really want you to embrace the definition as I have said it for being positively selfish. So I'm just going to read to you positive selfishness. It means putting yourself first in a balanced way so that you have the capacity to handle your business and make meaningful connections. That's all it is. And you can do that. If you have a friend who also needs to become positively selfish, and I know you do because we sit around and we talk about this stuff with our girlfriends all the time, send them this video. This is something that is going to change your life because you are taking charge of it. You can't change your life without being in charge of it, darling. And that is the first step towards healing the relationships and reconnecting with your teenagers and your adult children. Because they don't, at that age and stage, need you to tell them everything to do. They need to know who you are, know how you think and interact with the world and why, so that you can influence the way they think, so that you can guide how they interact to prepare them for this world that is going to require so much stress management skill, resilience, and capacity. But if you don't model those things yourself, there's no way you can expect your kids to go out into the world with those things. It's all stuff they're going to have to learn the hard way. But if we can save them that, why not do it? That's why I share my story. That's why I share the things that I had to learn the hard way. And I think it's part of that being the oldest daughter, because these are the things that if I could tell my sisters, if I had it to do over again, it's what I would do. Where is my video? So let's wrap this up. In this conversation, I told you why selfish as a label, especially attached to moms, is inappropriate most of the time, in my opinion. Are there other opinions out there? Absolutely. But do I care about those opinions on selfishness right now? Not so much. We talked about the cost of abandoning yourself, and we talked about what it means to be positively selfish. Now that we've taken the shame out of making sure that there is a you to even show up for other people, it's time that we address the elephant in the room. So many women don't even know what they want for themselves. And it's because they've been so consumed with trying not to be selfish and trying to be mom. And it is time for you to stop doing that. But here's the thing. You can't stop if you don't know what you want. So when you come back, that's exactly what we're going to talk about. How to figure out what you want when you have no flippin' clue. Love you. Bye.